everybody, it's John here. It's VEDA Day 21. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the ever-increasing complexity of computing and software and how that affects us and the ramifications of that. And that's kind of a big subject, but I'll kind of narrow it down as I talk about it. But yeah, I was looking in, I have my desktop, which I'm recording this vlog on right now, is about almost a 5-year-old computer. It's a good 5-year-old computer when I bought it. It's a 2.8 gigahertz Opteron, AMD Opteron processor. It's overclocked to that. It has decent, at one time it had decent graphics cards, but now they're obviously very out of date compared to the state of the art. And but also at the same time, it still does everything. You know, it's still adequate except for maybe playing high-end games and also processing high-definition video. It will do it, but it's slow. And so I'm looking into this new Intel i5 2500K processor, which is something that relatively came out in the last few months. And it is, when overclocked, you can overclock it to almost 5 gigahertz, which is just crazy with adequate cooling. That computer, that processor is easily 10 to 15 times faster in terms of raw speed as what I currently have, which is, you know, pretty impressive, and it really is about the same cost as what, even less than what I paid for this computer, or maybe, or about the same really. And that is just insane. And also, you know, I mean, if I buy a new computer, it's going to have, you know, 8 or 16 gig of memory, and, you know, probably have 2 terabytes of storage, and you know, these are just common things, and you know, the common updating of hardware and software. But the problem is that from a video game perspective, that the video game makers don't want this progression to continue. Really, you think it would be the opposite. That, you know, of course, video games benefit the most from a superior technology because you're always trying to render reality, and we're still many, many steps away from mimicking reality in a way that's believable. And it's obvious when you see a video game that it's not real after looking at it for a while. And so but the problem is that the complexity and the amount of effort it takes to be refining this process down of rendering and AI and physics and all the other aspects, sound, and, you know, things that go into making a good-looking video game or a complex video game is incredibly expensive. We're talking, you know, cross-platform to do Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, you know, a PC game, you know, to do all those under the same title. You know, you're talking 20, 30, 40, 50 million, sometimes even more dollars. And now we're talking about PlayStation 4 and Xbox 3 or whatever the next technologies are. We're talking about possibly resources that are going to be 10, 20 times what an Xbox is in terms of memory and processing power and graphics abilities. You know, so we're talking about budgets that now are maybe $100 million, you know, $200 million, but in theory, potentially it could reach that, to max out all those resources and to do something to the full capabilities of what that new hardware will be. And video game companies don't want this at all, because it's just, all it's doing is increasing their risk in terms of making a flop, and it also makes the cost of or the return on your investment has to be even more, and it's probably not going to be there, or it makes everything much more high risk. And so they're actually not wanting the new generation technology. But the other problem with this increasing technology, with all these multi-processor CPUs and these multi-threaded applications, is that you're getting to a point where it's getting to be beyond the complexity of programmers, or you have to be superior in a way to ferret out these problems when you're making software applications that are that complex using these kind of advanced methods. And the tools that exist really aren't that advanced. The programming languages today are not that radically different than what they were 10 or 15 years ago. That's starting to change maybe a little bit, but to this day, a lot of stuff is still written in C++, which is a 20-plus-year-old language, and it's not, and it's starting to, it's just becoming an increasingly harder problem because you have these increasingly more complicated applications running. I mean, I just today I'm dealing with this issue with my internet connection that my ping times go up, the latency between servers. When you make an internet request, it goes out and it has to jump across maybe 10, 15 servers to get to the piece of information you're requesting, and then it has to ripple it back, and that's just the way the internet works. It's all these like subservers, and once it gets to a certain layer of this, my ping times go up like 100 milliseconds. So when I'm playing online games, it makes them pretty much unplayable, and there's nothing I can do about it. It's just, I mean, the AT&T is horrible customer service. Other people are starting to complain now. It doesn't seem to be a problem that's always occurring all day. It happens more in the evenings, and it's time dependent. I mean, this is just an example of how complex problems are when you're dealing with multiple processors, multiple threads, multiple servers, across thousands of miles potentially. It makes me wonder, like how there's going to be, to a certain degree, diminishing returns because the technology is outstripping the abilities to utilize it in a way that is optimal, and there's going to be more and more just wasting of resources because you just can't utilize it in a way that can be harnessed properly. And I think you've always seen this, and it's always been a problem, but I think that it gets worse and worse. And so, I mean, I have so many software bugs as a programmer. Maybe I notice them more, or they frustrate me more because I always think of it as laziness on the developer's part. But I don't know. What's currently your least or your most frustrating software bug or problem, computer problem that you're having that you haven't been able to solve, or that maybe will never be solved? I have bugs on my computer that they stop releasing updates for, and it will always be there. And I'll have to, when I throw away the computer is when the problem goes away. So anyway, I've rambled a long time on this subject, and yeah, what's some of the bugs you're having? Because this internet problem I'm having is driving me nuts, and it's not something that I can easily fix. In fact, I can't fix it at all. I have to wait for someone else to fix it. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.